What's happening? What's happening? How we doing? I know it's been a while, and I apologize for the delay. Had a few things happen. We're gonna get into it. Welcome to Smoke Drink Vibe. I am your host, Life Coach Jay Hughes. Got a lot of things to talk about today. I want to give a shout out to everybody that was tuning in and wishing me happy birthday on my birthday. Birthday was June 1st. I definitely appreciate the love, support, and everything else. So happy birthday to me. I'm not going to tell you how old I turned. I turned 24 in reverse. Turned 42. Glad to be 42. Glad to see another birthday. It was a wonderful occasion, and I had so much fun. Wife threw me a surprise 90s and 80s skate party. Okay. Very much surprised. A lot of my friends showed up. Houston friends showed up. Again, had a real good time. It was just the truth. So thank you for that. Thank you for the birthday wishes to my Facebook friends. And thank you for this surprise birthday party that I was able to have. Man, listen, it's a lot that we're going to talk about. Hopefully I can ruffle some feathers today because that's what I love doing. Got that Douce in my corner. Got me a good old cigar. Shout out to Delon out there in North Carolina. Sent me this beautiful, beautiful cigar. I'm not even going to tell you what kind it is because it's not for you to know. It's not for you to know. Not even going to share this one. I'm playing close to the chest. Okay. So, got a lot to talk about. And the thing that we have to talk about today focuses around relationships. Okay. Me and my wife had a client today who had kind of a scare or she was fed up. I'm just going to say she was fed up. And she was fed up with the lack of results and the lack of trying that her current husband was giving in the process that they're going through with us. Okay, very fed up, very much just feeling like she's at her wit's end. And so during our normal meeting today, it was full of tears for her. Okay. And then later on today, the husband said he wanted to have an emergency session, right? And he really wanted to use us to convince his wife to, hey, calm her down, tell her I'm all good, tell her we're going to work this out, I'm here, whatever. And we just didn't do that because that's not what we do in our practice. We held him accountable. And in a loving way, we pointed out how his behavior garnered the response that he got from his wife. And so, not going to say what the results of that were because that's a private matter for them, even though I'm skimming the surface of their story. But I will say he's got to put in more actionable responses instead of just words. Because for her, she's fed up with words. So I was going to talk about male responsibility during this podcast. I was going to go there. I was going to talk about the responsibility of the Black man in this podcast. However, I decided to talk about relationships. Okay? Relationships. How are they doing? What are they doing? Are we even ready for them? Do we know what we're doing? So forth and so forth, right? So, had a couple questions that I wanted to put out there to the team, okay? And we're going to talk about relationships today. And the reason we're going to talk about relationships is basically because a lot of us do not know how to have a healthy relationship. I was one of them, okay? My last marriage, I was not displaying characteristics of a man who was acting appropriately, in so many words. So I wasn't having a healthy relationship. Okay. And I do accept responsibility for that because even though I thought I had the tools, I didn't have all the tools. And the tools that I have, I didn't use, so forth and so forth. So based on today and based on what happened today, I wanted to talk about relationships. Okay. Now, one of the things we're going to talk about, we're going to talk about 3 different subjects. Okay. One of the subjects we're going to talk about is social media and how it plays in today's modern relationships. A lot of people break up over social media. A lot of people break up for, oh, you like this guy's post, or, oh, you like this girl's post, or, oh, why you following this girl? Break up, right? There's a lot of stories in the modern relationship era that says your breakup is most likely to happen from social media. Okay, that's just what it is. Another thing is we have to define, or I would like to try to define, what defines cheating in a relationship. Okay, because you have different forms of cheating and people still limit it for some reason to just physical cheating. There's emotional cheating, there's mental cheating, there's all kinds of cheating. We had a couple who were going through their thing, and she thought and she assumed it was her point of view that her man watching porn was a form of cheating because the girls that he watches don't look like her. And we're going to get into that later, probably. Okay. So I want to try to define what is cheating in a relationship. I also want to try to define and see if traditional gender roles play a part or have a place in the modern relationship. And the reason that is because you have a lot of independent women out here. All right. And independent women is not a good thing, but it's not a bad thing either. It can be looked at from both sides of the coin. So with that said, there's a lot of things that men would traditionally do or traditionally try to do or have in their mind that this is how the relationship is supposed to work out. But they sometimes have difficult executing said things because of the type of woman they're dealing with. So do traditional gender roles work in today's modern relationships? Okay. So those are kind of the 3 things we're going to talk about. Okay. And I want to talk about it because I want to help. Again, we had this couple today who were just not doing the best. Okay. And she was on her wit's end. And, she's just, the guy just, he didn't want to conform. He didn't really want to go through the process. He was going through the motions just to shut her up. Right. But there was no real progress. And so I sat there and I wondered, why is it that even when you have an advocate, some men and women do this, but when you're trying to go through a therapeutic process and you have an advocate for both the man and woman who's also a man and woman that's advocating for you on both sides of the fence, why do you still choose to not truly go through the process, right? Is it because, speaking to this particular relationship, is it because he's a man and he just didn't trust the process? Is it because he wants to do what he wants to do, which I personally believe it's that? Is it because, he's just not used to therapy and life coaching and somebody trying to help him regardless of what it is? Is he just too lost? Is he just, there's no hope for redemption kind of thing? We don't know. But what we do know is that because of his actions, he is now in a different position that's very tough. And that brings me to questions that we're going to pose today. And I'm going to do this kind of out of order. The first one I'm going to bring up, and we're going to jump right into it. The first one I'm going to bring up: do traditional gender roles work in modern relationships? Do they work? All right. In my personal opinion, I would say yes and no. And yes, there's a gray area to where I can say yes and no. It depends on the relationship. It depends on the people within the relationship and if their values align to allow traditional gender roles within said relationship. I want to know from the people in the comments, though, in the comment section, do traditional roles, gender roles, right? Do they work in modern relationships? Again, my point of, or my opinion is saying yes and no, right? Because you do have some women that no matter what you do, they're going to take out the trash, flexing their independent muscles and everything else like that. They're going to wash their own car. They're going to get out and pump their own gas, right? Could we argue that they're being combative? Probably so, right? Could we argue that they're not ready for relationships? Probably so. But does that make them wrong if they say, as a woman, that I don't subscribe to gender roles within a modern relationship, right? Because dating and relationships and marriage is definitely not like our parents and grandparents and great grandparents were. It just wasn't. It just simply wasn't. Back then, gender roles played a very specific part. Okay. The man usually worked, the woman, either she worked and reared the kids, but before that, she really just reared the kids, stayed at home, and did what she did as far as cooking, cleaning, and things like that concerning the house and making the house a home. Okay. But that's not today's time. Obviously, you have more women in the workspace. You have more women in CEO positions. You have more women competing with men in jobs that they normally wouldn't be able to compete in. All right. But not really, because they're still not doing jobs for the most part that men typically take on. Okay. The jobs that men typically take on are jobs that are still dominated by men. Okay. However, there are other jobs and other positions that women have infiltrated. I know it's a bad word, but have infiltrated as far as a male dominated job. They've infiltrated it. They're doing those jobs now. They're the CEO, they're the CFO, they are, operations manager, whatever the case may be. They're foremans. Okay. They're building instructors. They're this, they're that. Typically dominated male role jobs. Some women, about at a 2% right now, maybe 3%, have infiltrated those kind of jobs. So does that make them, because women are out here getting a bag, because they're elevated in their job position, because they have degrees, does that make them say, I don't want traditional gender roles, right? Or do they not expect it? I happen to believe that they've learned not to expect it, because on the flip side of that, you have some men that do not subscribe to traditional gender roles. Big shocker, right? They don't subscribe to it. There are men out there who are not going to open your door. You got two hands, open your own door. There are men who are not going to pull out your seat at a restaurant. You got two hands, pull out your own seat. All right. There are men who are not going to take the trash out. You put trash in there just like I did. You take it out. Right. There are men who are not going to do certain things because they don't subscribe to traditional gender roles in the modern relationship. Can we say those men are really men, though? Do women have the affordability and the carefreeness, which is not a word, to choose when and when they don't want to subscribe to traditional gender roles? Like if a woman says, I don't subscribe to traditional gender roles in a relationship, she may be seen as combative, but she still have people that may want to date her, right? It's not like this, oh, she don't believe in traditional gender roles. She's the devil. All right. Let a man say he doesn't believe in traditional gender roles in relationships. That's going to hit different. They're going to look at him as not even being a man. Okay. They're going to question his manhood. They're going to say, who raised you? Do you even like women? What did your mama teach you? All kinds of stuff, right? Whether he knows about traditional gender roles or he doesn't know, he simply does not believe that he should exert himself in the traditional manly way in a modern relationship. He just doesn't believe he wants to do it. So there we have the dilemma or the question. Do traditional gender roles work in modern relationships? And I strongly believe, yes, they do, and no, they don't. It depends on the person and their views of traditional roles in their own modern relationship. Me and my wife a little bit different. Me and my wife a little bit different. We have, for the most part, traditional gender roles in a relationship, for the most part. However, because of our beliefs and our dynamics, there's certain things that's not so traditional that just work for us. And that's the key thing. What works for you, right? What works for you in your relationship? There's no shade. There's no shade. I'm sorry. There's no pointing fingers at you because you don't believe in traditional roles, gender roles. What we're trying to do and what I'm trying to do is find a common ground to where you understand more so who you're picking based on the values that you have, right? Instead of just picking somebody because they're cute and they look good, right? You're picking somebody based on compatibility. And if compatibility involves traditional gender roles, then you have to discuss what that looks like. Okay? You got to discuss what that looks like. There's a lot of men out there who believe in traditional gender roles. Can't tell them anything different. Wife, is not supposed to work. She gonna stay at home. He gonna make all the money, pay all the bills, and all this other stuff, right? And all she's supposed to do is make the house a home, cook, clean, do all kinds of other stuff that he asked her to do within reason at the house. On the other hand, there are some women who say, nah, I'm not doing that. I'm going to go out here. I'm going to get my own money. I'm going to get my bag. In some cases, they'll say, my money's my money and your money's my money. Okay. But I'm still going to work. I'm not going to stay at home. I'm not going to waiting on you hand and foot. A lot of these women don't even cook, let alone stay at home, wait on you to get home to make the home even a home from when you've been working all day. They don't do that. However, they still want to be dated, courted, chased after, married, and whatnot. So traditional relationships and traditional gender roles within the modern relationship, it does work. It can work. However, you have to put your own twist on it because it depends on who you're dealing with within your relationship and does your values align with their values as that is concerned. What up, sis? Shout out to Kat, the voice up here, tuning in, checking in on Big Bro. She checking in to see how I's doing. Okay. If you're just tuning in, we're just talking about gender roles in modern relationships, traditional gender roles in modern relationships. And the question is across the stream, do traditional gender roles work in modern relationships? That's what we're talking about. Again, it depends on who you're with. It depends on what your values are, and it depends on what their values are, and do said values of each party align? Are you having that conversation? Again, me and my wife, for the most part, have traditional gender roles. However, there are some unique roles that we have decided not to follow traditionally. And I laugh when I say that because she knows what they are. We laugh about that all the time. Okay. Doesn't make her less of a woman, doesn't make me less of a man. Our values in line, hence that's why she's my wife. But we had that conversation. And that's hard for a lot of people to do in the beginning, is have that kind of conversation with somebody that you're dating or about to date, right? They don't want to run them off. Just getting to know you. Don't want to run you off. Just getting to know you. Don't want to ask you what your values are as a man. Just getting to know you. Don't want to sit up there and ask you, are you doing these different things to be a wife? Are you ready to date? What's your intentions? Some people say, nah, fuck that. I'm asking regardless. Some people have that conversation, but it's the way they present that conversation, which makes them very, very susceptible to being viewed as aggressive, right? So when you have these kind of conversations about traditional roles and what roles they play, and do you have the same values that I have, said person that you're dealing with, you have to present it in a way that just says, I'm trying to find out this information to see if we're compatible. Okay. No harm, no shade, no foul. Just trying to get to know you. And you have to ask based on the values that you have, and you have to be able to articulate and define said values to that person that you're talking to so they can understand your position. Right. Kat says, I think that there is a shift in from traditional roles because our generation has not seen it work or show up consistently in a positive, thriving way. You do have a point. I think there is a shift not only because they haven't seen it, but because it just doesn't fit the way that they want it to work for them, right? Like it's been present. But it hasn't been present overwhelmingly in a lot of Black homes, right? And since it's been present, even when it was present, a lot of people who have seen it still don't subscribe to that completely because it just doesn't work for them and what they want, right? Not to mention that, like you said, they haven't seen it work out in a loving and positive, thriving way, right? However, just because they haven't seen it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Playing a little bit of devil's advocate right here. Just because they haven't seen it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Or else how would they be aware to even ask or combat traditional gender roles in a modern relationship? You got to have, again, it's all about what works for you. You got to have this idea of what you want in a relationship before you go into what you want in a relationship as far as gender roles is concerned in this modern dating era. Okay. She goes on to say, however, partnerships is more ideal, but not with the understanding of 50-50, but more so being able to play to each other's strengths and what keeps the balance so that neither person feels alone. Yeah, I can see that. Partnerships are more ideal, but the problem with labeling it a partnership sometimes is word association. When you have partnerships, sometimes somebody in a partnership forgets who's the head and who's the supporting role. Now, in a fluid partnership says the head is interchangeable, right? Who's in command depends on the situation. It's interchangeable. Some people can't deal with that. Some people, especially men, feel like an interchangeable fluid partnership goes against what they were taught or socialized as men to believe, that you're the head of the household. How can I be the head of the household if I'm in a fluid partnership and no leadership role is defined or is only defined by the situation we're in, right? But a partnership does seem ideal. I did a podcast about 50-50 relationships not too long ago, and basically understanding of what a real 50-50 relationship means. You bring your 100%, I bring my 100%, which is two people bringing 50% to a table to make it 100. Okay. Now, like you said, play off each other's strengths and help where the weaknesses arise, right? But we still have to have a leader, because some people want to lead and some people want to follow the right leader, right? That's just what they've been socialized, and that's what they feel genetically as a man and a woman that they still want to do. I want a person that I can build with, a partner, but she also wants somebody that she can follow and that leads her into different said directions. He wants to be a leader. He wants a person that he can build with, but he also wants a person that he can teach certain things, right? Now, my opinion is both of them should be teaching each other and learning from each other, right? Like Kat said, playing to each other's strengths and being there during each other's or when each other have weaknesses. I know I said that completely wrong. The focus should be how can we accomplish and obtain, not necessarily looking my gender or looking at my gender role. The lead is interchangeable depending on what the task is, usually with children. Yeah, I can see that with children, the lead is interchangeable. It's supposed to be interchangeable up to a certain point. Up to a certain point. I believe when you get to a certain age for a man and a woman, or a young boy and a girl, that respective gender should be now learning or completely under the tutelage of the said gender that they relate to. Like, for instance, if you there's only so much a mother can teach her son, only so much. Okay. She can teach him what a man is supposed to act like as it relates to a woman, but she can't teach him how to be a man amongst other men, because she doesn't know. She's a woman. She can only teach him from her perspective of what she wants him to act like when it comes to other women, if she's teaching him right. But at that point in time, when he's into young man and transitioning into adolescence, which is teenage years, he's supposed to be with his dad, learning and taking on different avenues of what it means to be a man, right? Now, daddy's little girl can be daddy's little girl up until a certain point, because he can only teach her, his daughter, what he expects her to act like as it relates to dealing with men. That's what he can teach her. But when she becomes of age, and she's, well, not of age, but she's going into her adolescence, she needs to be under the tutelage and guidance of her mother, because she can teach her what it's like to be a woman in the whole aspect. Okay, we don't have that in the Black community. We don't. Husband is the head of the household and leads a family, while together they raise a family. That is true. That is true. Husband and wife have equal say-so within that household as it relates to the kids. They have alternating say-sos as it relates to each other in their dynamics of their own personal marriage and a relationship outside the kids. But when it comes to the kids, it's a united front with interchangeable leads at the beginning. I definitely agree with that. Okay. So modern relationships, do they work? Or modern traditional gender roles and modern relationships, do they work? The answer is yes and no. It depends on your values, how you define them, and if that other person's value align with yours. Listen, we have a lot of red pill men that say traditional relationships is the only way to go. It helps our society. It does this, it does that. And I get it. I get what they're saying. I understand where they're coming from. However, if that was the case, it would be more of it. More people would subscribe to it. And for some reason, a lot of people don't subscribe to it. It's just not what they want. Okay. The woman Today's modern woman is just not going to stay at home, cook, deal with kids, and wait on you to get home because you're making all the money. She's just not going to do it. She's not going to do it. The modern man sometimes he don't want to take care of no woman. He want her to work. You need to get up and work. If I'm working, you need to work. The modern man sometimes is not going to do that. Okay. So again, traditional gender roles in modern relationships work depending on who you're dealing with and your core values as it relates to that. Do their values align up with yours? Okay. Now, speaking of that, this leads me to my next segment, next question, as to why we got to the point where we even have to question traditional gender roles in modern relationships. Is social media to blame? Is social media to blame for the way modern relationships are now formed? Right? Interesting question. I would say, for the most part, again, yes and no. Social media is to blame, yes, because it gave voice to a lot of people who surprisingly thought the same way on both sides of the coin. However, social media is not to blame because social media only amplified said voice. Okay. It only amplified said voice and gave other people a different way to think. Okay. But is social media to blame for not only the way modern relationships are now formed, but is social media to blame for modern relationships and how fragile they are? Right? A lot of people break up over social media. These are facts. A lot of divorces are now because of social media. You liked her post. Who is she in your DMs? Why is this guy in your DMs? You liked his picture. Why are y'all friends? Social media is slowly becoming one of the top 5 reasons for divorce in the modern era. So is social media to blame? Can we say that social media is the reason why breakups happen? Can we say social media is the reason why divorces happen? Can we say all these things, and can we squarely place the blame on social media? We cannot. We cannot. Ideology is what we can tackle. Again, social media is just a tool to push the ideology out there. But ideology is what we can tackle based on current societal conditions. The dynamics of the black man and the black woman in the dating world have changed, with the black woman becoming more in tune with the workforce, higher positions, higher wages, however, still a wage gap, only because they don't choose the jobs that men typically choose. But social media plays an influence on said relationship, because now we get to present ourselves digitally, similar to how back in the day we would present ourselves socially or in public versus at home. And so since the social media era, we're now able to present ourselves in a digital way that resembles having a public persona or having a social persona versus your behind the scenes or at home persona. And if that public persona is tarnished, just like the social media persona could be tarnished, it does a damaging reputation if it's not authentic. Okay. But then you get into these relationships and you fall in love. Some people fall in love with the public persona, which is no different than the public persona of yesteryears. What does that say? What does that say? Because now you go into the relationship and you get this rude awakening because your core tradition and values, or values that you hold dear to your heart, come into play. And now it's a problem because you done messed around and met somebody's representative. In this case, you met somebody's social media representative. But if you didn't meet their social media representative and you met the right person, your insecurities as a man and a woman plays a part, because now you're thinking that they're supposed to socially only be dealing with you, right? You have women and men of today who will not talk to a woman and or man of the opposite sex or the same sex unless they have access to their social media accounts, because Lord knows everybody be sliding in their DMs, right? So now you got trust issues, which you already had before you got in the relationship, but now the trust issues are exacerbated because they got their whole social media profile and their whole account to play with, and you have no idea who's sliding in their DMs. And what's the classic thing? Oh, he's just a friend. Oh, that's just a friend of mine. Oh, that's just my brother, right? Oh, I don't know who she is. Oh, that's just a friend, right? Our phones and social media have been the haven for mischievous work 90% of the time. It's been the cause of the reason why these breakups happen. Because now your phone is your livelihood and your social media is still your way of being out in public without being out in public. There are famous people who are on social media who have never left the confines of their house, yet still they're famous. They have a bunch of followers. And we are operating in an age where people confuse, of today's time, people confuse followers with actual friends or people who like you. So then it's confusing to you because you have all these followers. But it's also confusing to your partner because they think, just like you, that out of those people, somebody likes you and they're sliding into your DMs. So now it's, let me check your phone. Remember back in the day it was, let me check your drawers? Remember that? Let me smell you. I'm showing my age. Let me smell it. I know you've been out doing something. Let me smell it. Now it's, let me check your phone. I know you've been out doing something. Let me check your phone. Okay. Social media does play a part in exacerbating the issues that arise in relationships. They only play a part if those issues are not dealt with before the relationship starts. So, is social media to blame? Social media is not to blame. Does it play a part? Yes, it plays a part. Is it the exact reason why people break up? Unfortunately, in today's time, yeah. People sliding in other people's DMs, having a secret exit plan, living a double life. Back in the day, if you lived a double life, you lived a double life physically on the other side of town. Today, your double life is your social media account. Think about it. Think about how many secrets have been kept in social media accounts. Okay. However, is it the sole reason why breakups and divorce happens? Yes and no. Yes and no. Again, you got to know who you deal with. I myself raised my hand. I met my wife on social media. Okay. Different how I met my ex-wife, but I met my current wife on social media. Best thing that ever happened, because we had a meeting of the minds and conversations on what was going to take place and what we were looking for, and if our ideologies aligned, which led us to be in a relationship. Never had to check her DMs because she created a safe space to where I don't have to. And she also knows I'm not that kind of guy to check DMs because there's a huge trust factor that's involved. See, a lot of you don't trust the person that you're with. That's why you check the DMs. You want to control certain things that you should have taken care of in the beginning of the relationship before the relationship started. And then because you didn't take care of said things, insecurities, whatever the case may be, resentment, hurt from the past, social media equals, for men, a lot of the women, or a lot of the men in your DMs. For women, a lot of the women in your DMs. So you're constantly in this relationship thinking that you're not the only one. You get paranoid, you cause arguments, and it's all over social media. Even you take your frustrations and arguments to social media. And then the breakup happens. And breakups are not private anymore. They're publicized on social media. For the echo chamber of your friends and followers who half of them wanted you to break up and wanted you to fail in your relationship anyway. That are saying, oh, poor you. You had this breakup, poor you. He wasn't good, no way. She was nothing, no way. All the while, those same people who are saying poor you have magically slid into your ex's DMs. Social media. Okay. Again, these topics evolve around relationships. Relationships are important. Healthy relationships is what leads to healthy companionship and healthy marriages. Okay. Are you going to have problems along the way? Of course you do. That's relationships. Even if you worked on everything yourself, she worked on everything yourself, both people are healed, you're still going to come up with problems. It's relationships. Dynamics is forever changing. People are forever growing and maturing. Thought processes are not as they were today as they were yesterday. Okay. However, to find the most compatibility or the best compatible situation, you're going to have to talk about some things. And one of the things you're going to have to talk about is social media and how it plays a role, or will it play a role in your relationship? Whew. Speaking of social media, what defines cheating in a relationship? Don't all answer at once. Who cheats more, men or women? By a recent study, if we go ahead and define the different levels and different ways of cheating, emotional cheating, physical cheating, other kind of cheating like that, if we take into account all the different ways you can cheat, and you ask the question, who cheats more, men or women? The study finds that women cheat more. They just don't cheat physically more. They emotionally cheat. They're more prone or more likely to emotionally cheat than men are. Men are more prone to physically cheat than women are. But if we're saying who cheats more and cheating falls in a category, it's women, because they're more prone to emotionally cheat. I know a lot of women are going to debate this night and day, but that's okay. You can argue with stats. You don't have to argue with me. However, what defines cheating? What defines cheating? Who defines cheating? That's a better question. I can tell you who defines cheating. You define cheating. Okay. Cheating in the dictionary, of course, has its own definition, but when in a relationship, you define what is cheating and what is not, based on your values, what you accept and what you don't. It's not cookie cutter. It's not all the same. If your woman or you think that Watching porn is cheating. For them, that's cheating. We can debate that it's not, which it probably isn't for the most part. That sounds more like insecurities than cheating. However, if your man says emotional cheating is cheating, then it's cheating for that person, right? And even that can be argued as insecurities. But what is cheating? What is cheating? How you define cheating? Why would you define cheating? Because for some people, polyamorous relationships, open relationships, is not cheating because the ground rules were set from the beginning. Your man out here, he messing with other women. Some girl, one of your homegirls come back and tell you, then you got to break it to her. Oh, well, we're in an open relationship. So that's what he does. I do what I do. When we're together, we're together. And she look at you with the gas face. Like, what you mean, Willis? But to her, your friend girl, it's cheating. And she thinks you're being taken advantage of. Not knowing that you actually subscribe to that open relationship and that concept, and that's how you wanted to define your relationship, but you just didn't tell her for fear of backlash, right? You have men that say, well, I have a polyamorous relationship, I have a mistress and I have a girlfriend, or I have a wife and I have a girlfriend. And then, somebody comes up and tells you that your girl was out with another dude, and now you got to break it to them and be like, oh, well, I have a polyamorous relationship, and she does her thing and I do my thing. So it's not cheating for me. She good. And he looks at you with the gas face because you didn't tell him that how you want to define your relationships is polyamorous, right? Even your girl can have a dude as long as you know about the dude and he comes into the polyamorous fold, right? So it's not considered cheating because that's how you defined it within that time frame, right? But what is cheating? If we're defining it in the different ways of emotional and physical, what is cheating? If you define it in your relationship how you define it, then nobody else can define it for you because that's what works for you in your relationship. Frankly, it's nobody's business how you define it. You define cheating how you want to define cheating. What I will say is, I would be in a better mental state and a better healed state to define cheating versus being in a broken state trying to find cheating. Right? Because when you're in a broken state, you either define it to either extremes, meaning you're defining it as he can't have no friend girls, no nothing, da 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 da. She can't have no friend guys, no nothing, da 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 da. Or you accept a lot of things that borderline mental, emotional, and spiritual abuse, all for the sake of defining cheating just to be accepted. Right? So one thing I can say is, if you're going to define cheating for your relationship and what you want for your relationship, definitely find somebody who aligns with those ideas. All right? However, define those ideas and those ideologies from a position of healed and wholesomeness within yourself. Defining it any other way puts you at risk for abuse. Emotional, spiritual, sometimes physical abuse. Okay. So take time to understand who you are. And that's the point of this whole situation as far as relationships and the core around relationships is take time to define who you are. Take time to heal. Take time to understand what kind of person you are. Take time to understand what kind of woman and or man you really want. When it comes to gender roles, traditional gender roles in a modern relationship, you have to take time to define what you as a man and or as a woman will or will not accept or will not subscribe to. When it comes to social media, you as a man or as a woman have to decide and define what you will and will not accept when it comes to social media as it relates to your relationship. And when it comes to cheating, same thing. You have to define it in a way that aligns with what you want and aligns with what this other person wants and vice versa. You guys have to align in ideology and thought process as it relates to these different things that we cover today. Because there's no one right answer. The only one right answer is whatever works in your relationship that's healthy for you. Right? As long as it doesn't dive into the area of mental abuse, physical abuse, or emotional abuse, and you're not compromising yourself because you're broken and you're compromising yourself for just acceptance, then you have to define what works for you. And what works for you, works for you. Who cares what people think? In some cases, they want the same thing, but they don't have the courage like you to say it or to even define it. So define what works for you. Define what kind of person you are. Define what kind of person you want. Get your core ideologies, philosophies, and thought patterns as it relates to relationships. Get those down pat. The only way you get that down pat is going on a journey of self-healing and self-exploration. Once you get to the core and the crux of who you are, then you're ready to articulate and tell that person who you're possibly thinking about dating what kind of person you are, what your ideological thoughts are, and how you define your relationship or how you would like your relationship to go. While it's good to be open to compromise and flexibility based on another person's ideology who you're thinking about dating, it shouldn't be so far-fetched where the flexibility seems more like bending over backwards and compromising yourself to where you lose your integrity within the relationship. Because we all want to be flexible and we want the ideologies to align, but we're okay sometimes with some of them coming very, very close, like 98% close, 95% close for compatibility. Because nothing's going to be 100% perfectly aligned. And even if it is, that alignment will come out of whack or unaligned over time because thoughts and ideologies change for the most part. Deep stuff. I love it. Had a good time. Thank y'all for tuning in. Shout out to Chastain Middle School. I salute you guys in Jackson, Mississippi. About to close down my middle school, y'all. We had a good time. Those who went there in 96, 97, and 98 had a good time, had good memories. Shout out to my people at Chastain and that class going through. Most of them going to Callaway. A lot of them going to Murrah. But shout out to the unity and the fun time that we had at Chastain Middle School in Jackson, Mississippi. They're about to close it down. It's some real sad stuff, right? But however, good memories were created, good friends were forged, friendship were formed, and it's good to see everybody now. I think we've only lost 2 people within that whole class. So that's good. Everybody's doing good, alive, healthy, still kicking, and that's how we like it. So shout out to Chastain Middle School in Jackson, Mississippi, my middle school that I went to. And I know you like middle school. Yeah, middle school. That's how they do in the South. They love your middle school and you love your high school. That's what they do. That's it for today's show. I am out of here. I'm your host, Life Coach Jay Hughes, and you be well.
I'm going baseline, highlights, can't slow me down, I'm too busy living my life. I put my face on the clock because it's my time. Rapper think he's seeing me, he better get his mind right. I'm going baseline, highlights, I got my grind right now, I got my shine right. I'm with my team and I'm feeling like it's my night. Better cuff your girl cause she looking like she my type. Okay, my fingers, itching for that paper. Up before the sunrise, nigga, I can't wait on flavors. Go and hit my knees, say a prayer to my maker. Look up in the mirror, check, I'm sharp as the razor. I'm riding to my anthem, I just gotta get it. Them bucks on my mind, Monte Ellis, Bronny Jennings.